everybody. This is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations, and I am doing a real quick kind of walkthrough, talk through kind of video on mashing the Petals and Letters junk journal collection from Country Craft Creations that is absolutely gorgeous with the uniquely creative flip folio album. I am using the dies that I had purchased from Country Craft Creations, and I use the folio here, and I'm also using the different pieces, of the Petals and Letters hybrid junk journal collection. This is absolutely gorgeous, and what I'm doing is making like a folio album kind of thing. So I'm using some pieces from here. I'm using the Petals and Letters Companion Junk Journal Kit as well because they have some great papers here that I can use to kind of back some pieces. So I am using some of that. And then I also have the Junk Journal Companion Pack 2, which has some ephemera pieces and things like that. So I'm kind of combining all three of these into this folio. I was doing dinner the other night. I was cooking dinner. And I posted that I was making Swedish meatballs, and I don't know why this like all popped in my head while I was cooking dinner, but it did. And I thought, what would happen if I did mash one of these albums with this junk journal collection? And it's not going to be like a full-on tutorial. I just want to show you and kind of talk through a few things with you. It's really simple to do. With this folio album, you get three pieces. So you get the big main piece, and then you get two other pieces that go with it. And you can put them together in different combinations, whatever you choose to do. And I just think it's really fun to do. So again, you get these pieces. The album itself is 6x8, and then you have these inner pieces here that you can play with. So here's kind of what I came up with, and I'll show you that, and then we'll talk a little bit about a couple little things with this, okay? So I did do the album. I did go through my Country Craft Creations stash of seam binding, and I chose this dark brown to use and created this folio. So it's kind of a double-sided folio in that the one, or the bigger, I should say, insert piece that comes with this, I went ahead and put on the back of this. So it has two different kind of elements to it. It goes back and forth, I guess you could say. So then this one opens up, and then when it opens up, on this inside flap here, I put that third little piece in here. Now you could use this as an envelope, or you can do like what I did, and you can just put it onto your project and then go ahead and use that as another element. So then when you open it up, what I ended up doing here, let me get these pieces out of the way for a sec, is I used the middle section and I created a pocket. And I did add a magnet to it because I really wanted to do that. And then I put a button over the top of where the magnet would be, and then used a little bit of twine there. And it flips open, and then I used the papers from this collection to cover these pieces, okay? So then this bottom part here on the folio, that's this part right here, I folded that up, and I decided I was going to use it as a pocket. So let me grab a piece of ephemera here that I got kind of picked out. So it is a pocket here, but then what I did was I used a die, one of the dies, and if you go through all of your dies here, there was this piece here. So I cut a piece of the paper, and then I just tucked it underneath a little bit, so then it creates kind of a stacked second pocket, but it also kind of is real decorative as well. So you have a pocket here, and then you have a pocket here, and then it's all closed with a magnet closure. And then over here, I did decide to do this flap here as a pocket as well. Okay, so again, using that particular die to cut a piece out and cover that. And I did that. So then when you close it up, it'll all look like this without tying this up. It'll close like this, and it'll tie. And then when you flip it over, and I know there's lots of ribbons hanging out here, but hang with me here for a sec. When you open it up, then you have this trifold back here. And I did use the journal paper on one side so you could do a lot of writing, and then I left some open space because I wanted this to be kind of a mash between like maybe you know, like a journal or, you know, something like that with photo opportunities. Okay. So it is an album, but you can do some journaling in it. And then as I was working with this, I thought, wouldn't this be fun? My husband is so sweet, and he writes me little notes all the time, and just, you know, tucks them in my lunch. You know, I'll find them all over the place. And I do have a bunch just stashed in little places. So I carry some in my purse. I have some in my locker at work. I thought what fun it would be to gather them up and have a place where I can put them. So that's what this is going to end up doing. I am going to make this into a love letter album for those cute little sweet little notes that my husband writes me. And so one of these letter pieces or word pieces that comes in the ephemera piece in these collections says love letters. So I'm going to use that as like a title here. And so that's kind of the reason why I did a lot of the little pockets, because I really wanted to have a lot of places to kind of tuck those little love letters in. On this one here, I'm thinking about putting a couple little photo mats in here, and I can take a couple pictures and put those in here, but then I could also like use a paper clip and tuck a little love note in there as well. That would be fun. I could fold one and just have it in there, and then as this ties, I can go ahead and, you know, use that as well. So that's kind of where this ended up morphing into and what my idea was. So again, I could put photos here. I could put photos here, photos here. I could tuck letters and photos in these pockets. I've got lots of space. I can put a photo up in here. So there's lots of room to do that with. And then I can also do it here. So then a couple things I wanted to talk to you about the dies. So the dies are awesome. And for all of the pieces, pretty much, this piece here, we have dies that take care of all this. So in this collection of the dies, if you have it, they're amazing because, like, let me, there's so many of them. They're so cool. I'm getting caught in my dies. Hang on just a second. That one's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Where did it go? Where did my other die go? Oh, here it is, right in front of my face. I've got it in my hand. Can't see it. Okay, so the die, just simply, you just put it in your die cut machine, and it fits up to 6 inches. I think this is just shy of 6 inches wide. So on my Big Shot, it works perfectly. So anyways, I just used the die and positioned on my papers and just cut the pieces out. There is a square, and you can see it has like the faux stitching in there. There is a square die. So for the big parts of the album, you could just go ahead and cut that and then get the stitching. On the front, again, there is a die for the front of the album. So it works really perfectly for front and back. You just have to watch your paper orientation and how you put it through to get that piece that you want. Okay, now this one here, this was the tricky one. Everything else, I used a die on that. There was a die for this, and it fit perfectly. I did cut an extra one of those again for this pocket. The bigger die with the scallop edge, that works perfectly right here. And then there is even a die for this piece right here. Okay, so you can actually make this into a flap if you wanted to. This folio can be used for lots of different stuff. But anyway, so I did that. So the trick with this one here, there is not a die to cut this piece right here. Okay, so the first piece here didn't really it was just a piece of paper that I had scrap wise that I used, and I used this die, and I just punched it, or, you know, die cut it out, and then I trimmed it to fit this piece. So there is a little bit of a border, more so than I normally do if I'm cutting my papers. So it's about, you know, 1/4 of an inch smaller than the piece it's covering, the pattern paper is. Okay, so that's how I trim that. So this piece here I cut roughly at 1 3/8 inch wide from the tip of this dome right here to here. And that's how I fit it. So dry fit it. When you do this, cut your piece out, trim it to like 1 3/8, dry fit it, make sure you like it, okay? So this one was trickier because I wanted this in continuity. So I cut the pieces. This was out of one piece of paper. So I cut this piece off first, cut this piece off next, and then I cut this piece. And I knew from measuring this one how much I wanted here. So when I did cut that one, I needed to make sure that the end, you know, of this was as far as I wanted it. So you could have a piece, for example, that was like, if you had a piece that was 2 inches wide, just make sure that, you know, this is the edge that you want on this edge. So you have to line it up from this point of the die to here at 1 3/8. I hope that makes sense. But that's how I did that. Now, if you don't want this to be in continuity and use a different color paper, then that's easy peasy, because you just cut a strip and then trim it and you're done. But I see how the butterfly kind of goes across. That's what I wanted to do. So that was kind of a trick. Now, there are no dies for these pieces here, so you do have to cut those by hand. And these I ended up cutting at like 2 3/4 by, get that, about 5 3/4. So that's what size these pieces are to cover this piece. And then I literally just put seam binding on the back side of it and then glued it right onto the flap. And that's how I did that. Okay. The back piece, let me tie this up. I hope this is making sense. You guys, if you have any questions, let me know. You know, I always am happy to answer questions. When I put the magnet, let's go to this piece here. When I put the magnet on, it's right under this pattern paper right here. And then I just matched it to the pocket here and I put it underneath the pattern paper here. So that's where the magnet came in. And then I just put this down over top of it. So that was pretty easy peasy. Now, when you get to the back of the album, I did the same thing as far as how I put it on. I just have my seam binding behind it. It is a trifold, so I did it like that. And I just put the seam binding behind it and then glued it down onto the back. So you have that kind of interactive piece on the back. Okay, so that's how I did it. I mean, this is just really easy. I just covered it with pattern paper. I didn't do anything fancy, just covered it with pattern paper. So then I wanted to show you, let me get these out of the way for a second, how I worked on some ephemera. Now, I've got some ideas on how I'm going to design it. I don't know if I'm going to use all these pieces or not, but I just wanted to give you some ideas. So in the collection, you do have some ephemera, okay? There's lots of pieces of ephemera that you have. And what I ended up doing, so you even have pockets, okay? So you have pockets that you could cut out and then you could glue on in different places. There's a cute little envelope here that I thought I might tuck a letter in that he wrote me, a little note, and then stick that in one of the pockets. So it is actually like a love letter. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. What I did with a lot of these is I cut the piece out and then I backed it with some of the pattern paper. So because some of the ephemera pieces have the they're white on the back side. So to make it blend in, that's why I did that. So I just literally glued it on the paper and then just cut it out. I did ink, and I did ink with the Catherine Pooler, and I used icing on the cake. So I did do that because it is a vintage feel. So I cut that out. I thought that was kind of pretty. And I can either leave this as is and tuck it in a pocket. And then later, if I want to, I could put a picture over top of here. Okay, so then it has this background here. And then I can also do some journaling back here, or I could add another photo back here. So I did that. I have not finished this one yet because I wanted to show you that it is white on the back side. So to make it more vintage, you do need to put the pattern paper on. There's a file folder in there, and I put the pattern paper on the inside because, again, it was white. So I just covered that. Okay, so I have this cute little file folder. This piece here was actually 2 cards together on the sheet. So I just cut them out, folded it, and glued them together. So I made a double-sided card, and I thought this was fun because you could journal on that as well. This film strip, I can put a photo here, I can put a photo here, and then on the back side, I have some journaling area, okay? The postcard here, you can write on here or put some photos and write, but you could also, I use the journaling side of that pattern paper in the collection, and I went ahead and put that there so you could journal on here and then put photos here if you would like. And there are also stamps in the ephemera piece that I could put on here as well, so that's kind of cute. I thought these cute little concert tickets were fun. Our first date was a Rush concert, okay? So I thought these would be appropriate to put in a album of love letters, right? So I can do that, and I can even document on the back, you know, when we went to the concert and all that stuff from our very first date, which is really fun to do. This here was a piece of the ephemera that I cut out and again backed it with some of the pattern paper. Okay, great place for photos back here. And then we have a tag, and this tag, isn't that gorgeous? It's just, the gray and the pink are just beautiful together. I still need to finish it by poking the hole and all that stuff, but then again, just use the pattern paper on that. So then I also have, there's a seal in this collection, and I backed that with pattern paper, and I've got an idea how I'm going to use that. I also had an idea, because there are Polaroids in this collection, to make some Polaroids out of some of the pattern papers that were left over from backing all of these. So I just made some Polaroids, so now I have some photo frames that I can add to my albums. So these are some of the pieces that I've gotten together so far. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop, I'm going to decorate, and then I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like. But again, I know I didn't do like an actual tutorial, but it's really easy to do. You just take those dies and you cut these out, and it works out really great. And again, just glued this down, and then just glued this one down on the back as well, and it gave another interactive piece. Okay, so that's how I'm doing that. So I will be back shortly, and I will show you how this turned out. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations, and I have kind of the final walkthrough of my folio that I made using the hybrid collection Petals and Letters from Country Craft Creations, the hybrid junk journal collection, I should say. So this is one of our new lines that was designed by Jacqueline Hart, and you can make junk journals with it, you can do folios, you can do albums, you can do all kinds of things with it. And so what I ended up doing was mashing it together with a uniquely creative folio. So this is the collection that I use. There's 3 different kits that go with this collection. The Petals and Letters Hybrid Junk Journal Collection, again, is the heritage product line that we have that has beautiful papers, and then it also has 4 different sheets of ephemera, tags, tabs, all kinds of different things. And then we have the companion journal kit, which also includes calendars and trackers, and then lined and unlined journaling pages. And then we have the Junk Journal Companion Pack 2, which has a lot of other different elements, and it's mostly ephemera. So you have recipe cards, there's file folders, tags, all kinds of different things. So I used a mash of everything in this. I also used the uniquely creative 6x8 flip folio album. Okay, and the 3 pieces that are included I used, and I just kind of did them in a little bit different way. And then again, the dies that I used for this are by Uniquely Creative, and these are the dies that actually go with the kit. So in the previous section, I did show you how to cut for that smaller piece to do that. I also went through my stash for this, and you'll see that in a minute. And this is some lace that I got from Country Craft Creations a while ago, but I pulled that out and I used it on part of this album for decoration. So it's really pretty and delicate, and it's just gorgeous. So I did pull that out too. So here's what it looks like all closed up. On the cover, I did add some flat back pearls from my stash. So in this area here and here, there were photos of pearls that kind of looked like this, only smaller. And so I decided to put some pearls on the front to decorate, and then I added another little cluster up in here. And then I did use my glossy accents to would put a little dimension on the seal on that stack of letters. So the stack of letters is part of the ephemera, and then the love notes I cut out of the ephemera piece, and I decorated the front like that. So then this opens up. This is seam binding from Country Craft Creations again. And it opens up and it looks like this. I left this plain because the flap covers most of it, and I wanted this to not be decorated, but you still could put photos here and have kind of a peekaboo moment, but I left it open at this time. This just ties shut, and again, this piece was simply just glued down with more seam binding to close it, and then that little wax seal piece, I fussy cut that out, and I did back it with some of the pattern paper left over, and then glued that there so it looked like a faux seal on an envelope. And then that opens up. I used a couple pieces of the leftovers, and I created 2 little squares, and then these squares do measure 2 by 2.5, so I can put 2 little photos of me and my husband in there. And then in the middle, I used one of the ephemera pieces, the roses, and I just glued that right in the middle so the pictures will tuck underneath that. And that's what I did there, just super simple. I could also tuck a letter in there, and this would stay nice and secure with this being closed like this, okay? Then when you open it up, you have the middle section. Again, I decided to leave this plain. I can put a smaller photo here. And I don't know if you noticed yet, but I also used some of my little teeny tiny paper clips around this collection, because there are paper clips in the actual, you know, pattern paper. And so I decided to use those to kind of tack things in different places. So again, I left this plain, but then this opens up, and then that little paper clip is holding that little file folder, and I can tuck a little note in here. I could put a little picture and write a little note. So that is tucked there. So this is, you know, like I said, kind of a mix between a folio and a little junk journal, I guess. And as I said before, I am going to put my husband's little love letters in here. So I think that's really cool. So I can have those all in one place. So in the pockets, I added the tag here. So I added an eyelet, some seam binding, a little bit of twine. I can do some journaling or put some photos back there. And this pocket goes all the way down to the bottom, so there's lots of space. Here is that film strip, and again, I'm going to put pictures here, and then I can journal here. In this pocket, try and get my fingers to work because it is literally first thing in the morning. Here's that piece that I just folded over on itself. So it was 2 separate cards that are the same size. I just cut them all out and then folded it over, inked it, glued it down, and I can do some journaling and some photos there. And then here's one of my fancy little Polaroids. So picture here and journaling on the back. The little envelope tucks here underneath that paper clip, and I left this open for a couple reasons. So there's a magnet here, and I did use the basic gray magnets that we have in the store. They are very, very strong, but I don't want to put too much over top of it because I want to make sure that this stays closed. So I left it plain, but I can put a small photo here, and then I have the envelope here that I can tuck some love notes in, and I just decided to tuck that there, but it does stay closed very nicely. In here, the concert tickets ended up here, so I can document that, and then I can also document on the backs of these with photos, and photo on this side, document on this side. This one you can document. I could do a little photo and put a little something there. Still lots of places to tuck my notes. And then here's another Polaroid documentation on the back. Okay. And that tucks there. So then this all closes up like this, and as I'm using it, it is a little stiff because the Folio cardstock is super thick. It's got to be at least 110 pound. I'm not sure if it says that on the package or not, but it will loosen up as I fill it in with time, so that's good. So that's the front, the main part of this folio, and then you turn it over, and here's where I use that lace. So again, this is closed with another seam binding closure, and I did the lace on the side. So what I did was I laid it down and kind of measured where I wanted it cut, and I cut it straight down here, but then I kind of curved it up here so that it would go around the curve of the paper. And then I literally, and this took a little bit of fussying, but I did put glue underneath on the kind of the main stitched pieces and then put it down. And then when I put it down, I took a cloth. Let me see if I have a cloth handy. I do. When I laid it down, and then I took the cloth and then I just pressed it down like so, okay? And that's how I got that to stick, and it's stuck literally all the way because I didn't want it to flop around too much. So that's what I did with that. And then I had this butterfly in the flower collection that I had in my stash, and I took off the middle piece because it was a little piece of wood and it just looked silly. So I took that off and I added some flat back pearls. So that will mimic the flat back pearls that I put on the front. And then when this opens up, I left this plain, and then here is that paper clip in the pattern paper that I was talking about, so I was kind of going off of that. I left this open so I can put a little photo and then maybe journal up in here, or I could even add more paper clips up here and clip some things there. On this page here, I left it plain as well because I wanted to have a place to put photos. Tuck letters, things like that, so I could add again more paper clips if I wanted to. And then, but this is where that Polaroid came in. So I think what I'm going to do is I could cover this with a picture and then journal on the back. So I think that's what I'm going to do with that. But I had to have that in there because that's kind of where the Polaroid thing came in. And then the paper clips as well. And then on the inside here, what I did here is I used the bingo card. I didn't have enough scraps to cover this one on the back. And I didn't want to cut into another piece of my journal paper because I have another idea that I want to do. So I used that as a pocket. I just glued it on the two sides, okay? Inside the pocket, I put the postcard. And then I put the last Polaroid that I had. So that'll tuck in here along with other little notes. And then I added another little paper clip here and then two of the smaller ephemera pieces because I thought it was pretty, okay? So I did just tuck those there. And then here is another little ephemera piece that's a Polaroid. So I just put that on the back of there. And then I left this open for some journaling. Okay. So this is my little hybrid folio photo album journal. I'm going to put little love notes that I've been collecting over the years that my husband has given me in various things, you know, tucking them in my lunch or in my purse or leaving them on my pillow or by my bedstand or, you know, all the places that he's left me little love notes. And I've kept them all because they're just adorable. So that is my journal. So, or my folio, I should say. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Again, easy peasy. I didn't do anything super specific except for with that small insert. You do have to watch how you cut that, but that is, again, super simple and easy to trim to fit that flap and cut those pieces. So I gave them measurements in the first part of the video. So if you missed that, go back. But that's all I did. I left it super simple, super easy. It went together when I cut all the papers out like in an hour. Like it seriously is very, very simple. And then it's just the decorations, of course, always take more time because you're playing and fussing and, you know, inking and doing all that stuff. So very simple, very quick, very easy, and super fun. This is available at Country Craft Creations. I'll have links down below so you can go get yours. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned because there is rumor that more is coming. So we're going to have some more kits out here pretty soon. So I'm hoping to play with those and have some more things for you. So thanks for watching. Have a great day and stay crafty. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.